Captain's Log Supplemental.
Hey Jeremy, you know those race cars you're busy building?
Yeah, I do. I
You,
got one that I'm looking at every day.
you know what I don't see you working on?
You don't see me working on the amazing Sentinel system yet.
That's true. It would take all of 10 minutes for you to have one.
And it's very quick and easy to install.
It is. It is. And we could watch you when we are not at the race with you and see how you're doing. And then we can call you up when you get out of the car and tell you everything you did wrong.
And I love that because so many years I've been driving and not been able to see what I'm doing.
I know.
And now we can.
I know. You know what I'd like to do with the video? My most favorite thing is I take the video and I load it on YouTube and then I send it to my coach and say, look at 26 minutes and 17 seconds. Look at this one lap and tell me what I can do better. And every single time, you know what they say?
Everything.
Exactly. Precisely. So with the Sentinel system, you get instantaneous feedback plus useful feedback that unfortunately is accurate for my driving.
I think it's accurate for all of our driving.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's probably true. Yep. But you need to get one in your car, sir.
Yes, I do. And with the discount code that you're going to tell everybody, they can save 10% on this awesome system.
Yep. Trouble-free. I haven't had an issue getting video every time we've gone out with the Sentinel. It's always worked. Can't say the same for some of the other systems we've tried. So I don't know. It's on the podcast notes down there. Don't do it while you're driving, though. We like to have our listeners live. It's good.
From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicky. Jen.
You're Jen?
I'm Jen.
All right. Well, we've got Jennifer awake. It's been 27 minutes past her bedtime, but she'll pop in as needed. So let's see. We're going to have, this is episode 650. So that means the home game players can kind of guess who one of the guests are. But yes, he is a Mr. Speed Secret. He is the racing coach that everyone wants. Welcome back to the podcast, Ross Bentley.
I'm still surprised that you invite me back.
I'm surprised we aren't auto junk folder as always.
Yeah. I'm amazed that you're not just like, do we really have to have him come back? You can change the rules, by the way.
Well, we're changing the rules on you tonight, sir. But before we get to that rule change, we have been badgering you since episode 600. We now have a goal. We are going to beat this out of you someday. And since, you're Canadian, you'll probably say thank you at the end, but that's fine. So who else do we have? We have Ross's podcast partner. We have a very good amateur racer, excellent author of a book that I have, and Miss Vicky has sitting how many feet? 10 feet away? 10 feet away?
Yep.
And then let's see, what else can we do to make him embarrassed? Because he really loves when you talk about him so well. He is able to say things like there's certain people who know stuff about cars, and I feel like I know about what they do, but he is able to say it in a way that I don't care how many of an infinite number of monkeys you had and how many typewriters they used, probably word processors by now, whatever they're using, doesn't matter. Puts it in a way that is not only a better way of putting it, but entertaining to read at the time. It almost like tickles your brain on the inside. So after that, that's the short version. I have a much longer version, but he's going to crawl into a little ball and start rocking himself in the corner. So welcome to the podcast, Sam Smith.
Well, thank you. It's Tuesday though. I crawl into a ball every Tuesday night and every Wednesday night, Thursday night, every day of the week. It's part of my routine.
Well,
But thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
well, we appreciate you uncurling yourself tonight and coming onto the podcast. So,
Who says he's uncurled?
well,
Oh, ooh, wow. Ross Bentley with the
Oh,
double
ouch.
entendre.
well,
Yeah.
in the
Ouch.
visual that we have, it looks like he's fairly vertical. So we're going with that.
I
So-
think he's got one of those cardboard cutouts. And that's actually just a cardboard cutout of Sam sitting at his desk.
How do you know I'm not AI, Ross? I mean, it's really just a bunch of gibberish and a bunch of hand gestures. And then every so often I talk fast and then I talk slow.
You
That's
know,
important.
You
I'm
kind of
just a
set
program.
yourself
I'm
up here,
code.
Sam. You kind of set yourself up. What makes
How?
me think that AI isn't intelligence?
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
I'm sad now. God,
Sorry.
I thought Canadians were nice people. You're not nice. You're nicer to me on our show. I'm
It's
never
okay.
doing this again.
Being Canadian, I can insult somebody and then go, I'm sorry.
That's the problem. You're just so likable.
I don't know.
Oh, no, thank you for having us, Bill.
Oh, yeah.
I glommed onto this because it sounded like fun, and it is fun. It's always fun. It's always fun to see you guys.
Well, we appreciate that you're going to help us beat this out of Ross Bentley because he's got these books called Speed Secrets. He's got this website called Speed Secrets. He's got these emails from Speed Secrets. So he's got all these speed secrets. But what really we want to know tonight, and the whole centerpiece of this entire podcast, is Ross Bentley being on the spot, Ross Bentley being put to the test, Ross Bentley finally giving away the 2 speed secrets that all the professional racers know, everybody else doesn't get to share. We want to get into the deep end of the pool, Ross. Ross, finally, this is it. This is your chance to come clean. This is your chance to share with the rest of the world. Stop holding back. Stop keeping it a secret. Stop being, oh, I don't know the secret. Raise your handshake, die, and share with the rest of the world the 2 things that are preventing us from even coming close to you guys when we're on track.
Okay.
This is going to be good.
No.
No, it's not going to be good. Let me think of the different ways that I can disappoint you with my answer here.
No.
So-
I'm sorry. That's my line. You don't get to use that. I'm disappointing. I promise failure. You actually know things. What are the secrets, Ross?
So are you okay if I just kind of ramble and think and
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not used to having people who think on this podcast, but we'll see how this goes.
That's not going to change today, Bill. I promise. Believe me.
So I'll tell you what I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I'm trying to, I don't know if codify is the right word, but a lot of people try to go fast in the wrong places.
Mhm.
And
Dangerous
I'm gonna say
places.
one of the secrets is knowing where to go fast and where not to go fast. And I see a lot of drivers who, by trying to go fast in the wrong place, they go slow in the places that they should be fast. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I tried to incorporate that in that little track map that I did, the track walk, and it's got like
Yeah.
safety corners, like be careful because this is where it will bite you, and then other corners where it go as fast as you want. You can't do anything.
So to be fair, like your map spreadsheet, that engineer thing that you do
Yeah.
is amazing. But my point is not where you need to go slow in terms of being safe and where it could bite you. I'm just thinking more about it in terms of where you need to give up a little bit to gain more over here. And I
Okay.
think one of the things that the best drivers do is they find a better compromise, because everything we do on the track is a compromise.
Mhm.
And there are places where you got to compromise a little bit of speed here to gain more over here. And it's the classic, is this a in slow out fast kind of a corner? Maybe it's a go in really fast and don't worry about the exit of the corner. I was talking to somebody just recently about one of the places was Road Atlanta, and a driver trying to get a better exit out of turn 6. And you're like, why?
Because they want to get to turn 7 so fast.
The turn 6, you come out of there and you're like on the brakes for turn 7. So who cares how fast you get out of turn 6? What matters there is toss the thing into the corner. Then there's other places where it's the opposite. And then you get a series of corners, some S bends or something like that. And a good example that would be Coda, the whole section of that whole down through the S's, and it's every single one of those corners is a compromise, and the best drivers figure out where to compromise, where to give up a little bit to gain some more over here. And
Right.
I'm going to say, and that's where, like, I would love to, Bill, I would love to create a spreadsheet for you. This corner, you compromise.
I can,
This
I
one,
can, I can appreciate that, Ross, and I accept.
Yeah. So let's just say it is something that I have been making notes of, writing some stuff, looking at maps, playing around, and I got it. So, hey, I just got back from Hawaii,
Mhm.
and I actually just happened to. I did not plan this, but I'm wearing a T-shirt that I picked up in Honolulu. And can I show my T-shirt
Sure.
for those of you
Sounds
listening?
like a threat.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh.
Slow yourself
Slow
down.
yourself down.
Slow yourself down.
That's a good one.
And it's a whole Hawaii kind of a thing, right? But I actually went and bought this T-shirt because I thought, there are times where you got to slow yourself down so you can go faster. And you can make this into some big, huge life advice kind of a thing and go, the reason I go to Hawaii is every now and then I slow myself down so that then when I come back, I can go fast like an idiot again, like I usually do, like this week. So, yeah, but it's something that I've been thinking about for a while now, is how to help drivers figure that out. Because you go, well, okay, great. How do I know which one? Where do I compromise? What are the best drivers? Well, and maybe this is another, sorry, Bill, I don't know if I've got like just two things.
I know that one of them will be, it depends. So it doesn't really matter. You
Well,
can have as many as you want. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'll get to the it depends here in a moment. But the, one of the things that the best drivers do better than other drivers is they experiment. They try things. And you go, well, okay, should I just go out there and throw things around and figure things out? Well, you have to get to a certain level where you can experiment, you can throw the car around and know that you're not going to crash and burn. And so, but I think the best drivers are really good at knowing, okay, now it's time to try something different. And in trying something a little different here, and again, a thing that the best drivers have is this ability to go, that was better. And they don't have to look over at the red and green on the dash on the data thing or the plus minus or anything else. They just like, that feels better. And they have that ability to sense that. So I think they're better at trying things, maybe in a logical way, but also then going, that was better, and not having to wait and just have a data system tell them that was better.
Right. Yeah. It's, I think most of the time I can tell, but there's those several times where it's like, oh, that was it. I nailed it. And you go back and look at the data. It's like, yeah, you nailed it the wrong way.
Sorry.
Sorry, just quick, Bill, I think we talked about this on episode
blah, 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 blah,
100, 150,
Yeah, something
100,
50,
250,
yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
Is we talked about driving in a taller gear through corners. And the number of times I've said to a driver, take that corner in third gear, not second. And they come back after a session and go, yeah, that didn't work, did it? And I'm going, actually, want to look at the data? You are way faster using third gear, because sometimes it doesn't feel like you're going faster. But I'm going to say the best drivers are better at being more right more often.
See, now I'm going to ask for a get out of jail card for my beautiful bride, because she can't seem to stop doing that drill, like in the race ever. Like we went to the last race we were at, and she's like, the car doesn't seem to go into fifth very well. And I think the transmission's not working. And everybody in the paddock's going, why is she in fifth? Because Ross told her to go one gear higher. Vic, you don't have to do it every time. Every time.
It's knowing where to go slow and where to go fast.
She pulls out a paddock. She's in first gear, and boom, fifth gear.
I mean, that sounds like experimenting to me. That sounds like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it, see
Okay,
if it
so
works. Maybe it works today.
we had just had the transmission rebuilt, and my thing is it was not operating properly in the moment, and things were kind of happening. So my first half of that stint was me diagnosing the car, which I now have capabilities of doing, which I was not aware that I kind of
Right
slipped into
on.
it. I kind of slipped into it now. So because I started doing the mechanic work on the cars. So now I am was diagnosing, and they're just leave, don't just drive it and forth, don't worry about it, and quit diagnosing the car. Drive the freaking thing, will you?
There's certain things you
I love it
need.
when you say that.
There's certain things you need at Thompson Raceway. Fifth gear is not on that list. You're never in fifth at Thompson. It's
Maybe
no.
that's the speed secret. Maybe it's always use fifth gear.
Always
Maybe
use fifth.
if you don't
Yeah.
think it's possible, it's possible. I
Yeah,
don't know. I mean,
maybe.
experiment, try stuff.
Every corner is flat in fifth gear.
That's right.
Yeah,
No,
I
no.
think that's when I kept saying we don't have fifth gear, it was more like we don't have fifth gear and we just built this transmission is what I was trying to convey. Okay.
That sounds entirely reasonable, Bill. I feel like that's a speed secret in itself. Communication, right?
It is. It is. It is.
And Vicky, tell us about when you did that exercise of running a taller gear some time ago. After we talked at one point,
Often.
and okay, it's possible. It's possible to do it too often, but didn't you find a bunch of time by doing that?
I did. I did. I
Right on.
my racing really has, I believe, improved
Mhm. 2 seconds
until
you
I hit
found.
the wall.
Well, I mean,
Wait, literally or figuratively?
No,
literally.
literally.
Oh, oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, man. Where?
Yeah.
How? I
At the
want. Can
last,
we hear the
actually at
story?
Thompson, I was like half a lap down from trading the car over, and I
Oh,
lost the back end
oh man.
coming
I'm
out of
sorry.
Going under the bridge.
heading onto the oval or onto the oval
Yeah, it
under the
happens.
bridge. Just kept
Yeah.
Oh
going.
man.
But anyway,
How?
yeah, I tell you, that was my first one.
Hmm.
Well,
Well,
now it's over with and it's happened, right? I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
it's not as
actually,
scary
it
once it
was my
happens.
second one in my whole thing. Because the other one was at Laguna Seca. But
Well,
that car was a wild card.
it was evil.
It was an evil one. No, seriously, so here's the thing for that particular car. Let me tell you the story. We rented the car. We were actually out there with Mental. We met him out there. We had this opportunity to race at Laguna Seca. But the people that we were renting the car from, the car got wrecked at the race before. So they had to quickly build a car for us because we
From
were scheduled and slated to go. We had already
from
done it.
from
But when we
scratch
went out
streetcar kind of
there,
thing.
this thing was like a freaking pit bull. It was a really wild car to drive. And not to mention it kind of like leaked onto all the oil was coming into the cab and it was like leaking over everything.
It was leaking onto the
But
tires,
but
so that
what
was fun.
happened was that it felt really wild. Like it really felt wild. And um it wasn't until I did end up hitting something with that one. But when the guy who owned it got into it, he says, "Holy crap." And I'm like, "Yeah, right." And what ended up happening was the bushings. Were they the bushings?
It's where the rear suspension mounts to the frame. The bolt holes had elongated.
Oh wow.
But
So now they were rubber like bushing stuffs in there, but they had elongated. But when the car was set, they had shrunk. But it wasn't until we took it apart that these things were so loose that the whole car towards that was loose. So I'm like, it wasn't just me.
we had
But
we
he had
had
gotten in there and said, "No, this thing is crazy.
we
This
had
thing,
dynamic camber in depending
I
on
was,
load.
oh my gosh."
And
I
rear
was
I
like,
say
wheels.
nothing
I
is
haven't,
Yeah.
yeah. It kind of put me off driving front wheel drive for a while.
nothing
But
is spookier than individually changing camber and toe at random times when you
and
can't
that's what
control
it
it.
felt like.
And
Absolutely.
I mean, it's spooky, right? And like I love weird diabolical cars that ask a lot of you and punch you in the face every time you do something right. And that stuff, like the difference between a diabolical car and a car that is going to kill you and you want out of is that the first one's predictable and the second one is unpredictable, and they do the same thing at different times, right? It's a
Mhm.
spooky thing.
It
That's
is, and
totally
that's
okay.
it was almost like riding a roller coaster when the whole car would just kind of like you're just trying to hold on. You're literally just trying to hold on.
I was going to say that's what Laguna Seca is, a roller coaster. So
Can
Yeah.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially kind of going over there and going down a corkscrew. You kind of want to throw your hands up in the air and you're going down.
actually, that's one of the speed secrets that pro drivers do not do.
Don't do that.
Throw their
Hands
hands
in
up
the
in
air.
the air,
Throw their
going over
hands
the
up in the air
corkscrew.
and go, woo! They don't do that. Yeah.
Well,
Don't
what
do
if
that. Don't do
what if
that.
that's actually, I mean, what if that makes them go faster and they just don't know it yet? I mean, what if, how do we, is that, what if it's
Experimenting.
good, Ross?
Experiment.
Yeah?
It
Mhm.
depends.
It
No,
depends.
it depends.
Yeah.
That's Ross's answer for everything. It depends. He doesn't
Depends.
actually give answers. Have you noticed this? It's always just like, what?
No, it depends because you either get it depends, or well, what do you think it would do? And
It's not speed secrets so much as speed waffling. He's like, I mean, maybe. I don't know why he sounds like a rabbi all of a sudden, but maybe you go into the corner a little. You drive the car. Who knows?
I
It
was I was
depends.
I was
All
going
right,
Mr.
continue.
Miyagi, but kind of like you're sitting in the paddock and you're painting the wall, paint the wall up and down, and then you paint the wall left to right, and that's how you drive an H pattern shift. That's how he taught the 16-year-olds when they went out to do Daytona. It was fine. Yeah, exactly.
Apex
So,
on,
Apex
Sam,
on.
apex off, brake
Sam,
on.
I've got an idea for a new T-shirt for us. Speed
Oh, what do you
waffle.
got?
Speed waffle.
Speed
You just
waffle.
Speed waffle.
I have this thing where Ross and Jeff say the two Ross and Jeff are our two co-hosts on our podcast. Shameless plug, it's not the car. But I have this thing where they say random things out of context, and then I turn them into t-shirts out of context, and it makes no one happy but me. And my wife looks at me and goes, "Why are you spending so much time designing a t-shirt for gibberish from your podcast?" And I'm like, "Go away. This makes me happy." And she goes, "I'm divorcing you." And then everything goes wonderful from there. I hope you and your t-shirts are very happy, Mrs. Smith. No, it would be a good t-shirt, speed waffle. And you,
speed waffle.
yeah, it depends. It's just a
It
big
depends.
toaster.
Exactly. It's like an Lego. Lego. Yeah. All right, Mr. Bentley, you evaded us.
I know. Well, okay,
you have
so
not the secret, the thing that does this. What's holding us back that everybody else knows that no one else knows?
well, I've
Just
already
start
talked
making
about
stuff
the
up.
about the knowing where to go slow and where to go fast. That whole compromise thing, the experimenting, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. I'm going to pull out a couple of things that I've talked about in the past, and one of them is the timing and rate of release of the brakes. If there was a technique that the best drivers do better than anybody else, that's it. And I have looked at data traces of the brake pressure of some of the best drivers in the world. And when you look at it, you go, that can't be right because it is so perfectly smooth at the end. It looks like, it looks like it was created by somebody with a, drawing it or something like this. And then you overlay that with somebody else who's not quite that same level, and you look at it and you go, oh, there's the magic.
I'm right here, Ross. You don't have to say it in front of me, man.
I know. No, I know. I mean, I've seen your brake traces, and they're magic.
I look like an etch-a-sketch artist who's having a heart attack. Yes, that's me.
Actually, that's a great way to describe it. Can we steal that? Because Sam's already designing a t-shirt with that
I
on
see
it.
Sam scribbling in the background for his next t-shirt design. So yes, you can.
Yeah, just an EKG that's just a bunch of coffee cups, and
Yep.
then just it explodes in the end into I don't know, a brake pedal.
Yeah,
exactly.
Who knows? I don't. I'm just a channel. I don't make this stuff up. It just flows through me.
So
gibberish.
And again, this is one of those things where somebody could be listening and go, okay, so what is it? What is that perfect timing and rate of release?
I know. It depends.
It depends on the corner. It depends on the car. It depends on the track conditions, all those things. And the very best drivers adapt that better than everybody else.
So, if I may, Ross, may I suggest a summing up speed secret of the seat secret you just speed secreted us in that particular secret, but also the secret before that?
Is it speedy though? Is it speedy?
I mean, maybe. Do
Okay.
you mind if I give kind of a speed umbrella, having listened
speed
to many of your
umbrellas.
speed secrets? Can I sum?
You can
So
waffle
love to.
away all you want. Yes.
No, what I was going to say is I've had the privilege of hearing so much of the way that you look at driving and learning and thinking and improving and coaching, and so much of it really comes down to I would humbly submit that it comes down to asking questions and assuming that you don't know everything at any given moment. You could be Max Verstappen winning the race that clinches the championship for the 11 billionth year in a row, and you might have built the car with your bare hands, and you might be, you might be in every measurable way the best driver on the planet. And if you are not sitting there examining what you're doing and asking whether it's the right thing for that moment, that car, that tire, that track, you're you're failing your talent, you're failing your skill, you're failing your ability and potential, right? So much of it seems to come down to, Ross, just is ask questions and assume that there's room for improvement and then look for it, right? Did I
Now,
just dumb it down too much?
no, now you know. Now you know why Sam and I have our podcast along with Jeff, because Sam's really good at. Sam good at words.
Mm,
I have been known to word done good.
thank
I
you.
got it's literally my only talent. So okay, so can I ask a question, Bill? Because I'm actually really
Well,
curious about this.
you can ask the question. I just wanted a confirmation of the rumor that's going around an automotive journalist. Is it true that the
Oh,
word wordsmithing comes from you?
no, that's not true. It actually
Okay.
comes from Bob Smith in 1794. He sat down and wrote 3 words about his dog just after the American Revolution. It was terrible. So then he decided to become an automotive journalist, and everyone's hated him and the profession ever since. We're all terrible people. It did
Okay.
not come from me. I wish I could take credit
All
for
right. Very well. Well, ask your question away, sir.
What
it.
was the performance car of the year in 1796?
In 1796, it was a horse, Russ.
6 horsepower
It was
Good.
Peabody,
leaf.
Performance Horse of the Year. Yeah.
Performance horse.
Come on, you know this. We've been over this. You've done the research.
Okay.
It was a
Okay.
horse, and there was a lot of poop involved, and
Hmm. Leaf
I don't know,
springs for
jockeys, other
sure.
things.
Leaf
Right,
springs.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I forgot what my question was, Bill.
Sorry.
I don't know. I cede the microphone. I cede the
Well,
podium.
okay. Well, while you're trying to remember that, Sam, yes, in fact, Bill, when you asked the question of what is it, what are the two things? One of my two things, sorry, but Sam kind of summed it up. The thing that makes the best drivers is they're never satisfied, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to figure out what it is that they could do better. And it starts with, as Sam said, asking questions, thinking about, how could I do that better? What could I do there? What could I do there? And I'm pretty sure there are people that look at Max Verstappen and go, man, that guy is so arrogant. He thinks he knows everything. You know what? He looks that way. He sounds that way. But well, I don't know for a fact because I'm not there. But I do know that he could not be where he is if he wasn't constantly thinking about how he could do things better. And there's a reason why he comes home from a Grand Prix. What does he do? He goes sim
Gets in the
racing.
sim.
And he's like trying things. He uses the sim. And I've talked to people that have been around when he's sim racing. And I actually watched a clip of him doing an MX5 Cup race at VIR earlier this year. Max Verstappen was doing that. And he's doing this sim race. And I'm watching what he's doing. And I'm going, he's experimenting. He's trying things. And, at the very beginning, he was not the best MX5 Cup sim racer. But I saw him do some things. And I think he ended up winning the race or something. He learned really quickly. And I'm sure it's just, that's how, I don't want to say that's how he's wired, because I'm not convinced that he popped out of the womb like that. Jos, his father, might be saying that's true. He got it all from me. But
Yeah, but Yas is a jerk.
if there's any arrogance going on, oh, sorry.
There's plenty there.
I believe that the way Max was brought up, the way he was trained, the way he was programmed, the way he was developed by his father and other people, I think that's how he thinks. Is how can I do this better?
All right. So you walked into one of my questions, Ross.
Did I?
Sorry. Hate when you
Did it
do
hurt?
that.
You can blame
It
Sam
did.
because
It
Sam-
did.
pushed me.
Did you hit
Yeah.
did you hit your head on it? How did that work?
No. So here it is. So you're saying you need to experiment and try things. But speaking as somebody who learned from we make the joke now that we didn't start at zero, we started less than zero because what we thought we knew was actually wrong. So we had to work our way to zero from the beginning. So I was disillusioned a little bit from keeping racing because I had reached a level that I thought I don't know what else there is to do. Like I was good at doing what I had been instructed to do, and I didn't know how to get from where I currently resided to, you know, the alien planet of the people that I race against who are quite good. Perhaps not, you know, top of the world, but in the amateur racing area, they're very good. I didn't see a path, nor knew that the path existed, nor knew that the path might be little pebbles or stones or whatever those things are you skip when you're little. Vicky's like, what is he talking about? But anyway, how do you figure out, how, Sam? How do you figure out if you don't know where, you know where you want to be, but you don't know what the path is or what is involved in the pathing?
Oh, I know this. I know this one. Can I take this one? Ross, can I
Yes.
take this one?
Go, Sam, go.
Forgive me. Does this show, I don't want to violate any rules. Does this show allow profanity?
It can do anything you want, Sam.
Okay. Forgive me for all of the children and mothers listening. I don't want to offend anybody, but Ross famously summed it up once, and I don't think he would ever say this on air because he's a very polite man, but he famously summed up all of it as when you're in that position, the only thing left to do is try shit. And the only way you try shit is by assuming that the thing you're about to try might be the answer. And maybe that answer is an answer you didn't expect. Maybe that answer is a place where you're pretty sure there's no answer to begin with, but you're going to go looking. But I don't know. Ross, is that halfway close? Did I get in the ballpark with that?
Yes. And the thing that I like about what you're saying is don't assume don't assume you know what you're doing. Don't assume what you're going to do is going to work. Don't assume that it's not going to work. And actually, I think that's a big problem as well. I know a lot of drivers that have told me, "Oh yeah, well I know that's not going to work," or we've had times where Jeff on our podcast where Jeff has talked about changing the setup on a car, and you're changing it in a way that you're going, it should improve this, and it does the exact opposite. And so don't ever, one of the things that I don't ever do with a driver is I don't ever want a driver going on the track and the engineer saying to him, we made this adjustment. Now the car won't understeer anymore. That's actually the worst thing you can say to a driver, because a driver will go on the track and confirm that you're right or wrong, or they'll confirm that you're right. And they'll come back and, confirm the assumption. And I think the whole, going in with a beginner's mind, the open mind of let's just go and try shit and see what happens. And I think that's really important. And I don't know if this is where you're going with your pathway and stepping stones and pebbles and wherever you're going there.
Bunch of rocks in my head, these things happen.
Yeah. but I think it's, yes, don't assume that there's a way to get there. And I'm going to say, so you kind of asked the question, well, how do you know how to get there? If that's where you want to be, and you're here, how do you know how to get there? Well, you can go and hire a coach that'll help you. And
I know a guy, Ross. I know one.
He has no secrets.
This is where it gets uncomfortable, but I started working with a driver almost 6 years ago who was definitely at zero, didn't know how to spell a race car. Like he knew nothing. And the approach that I took with him to help him get to where he wanted to be, when I showed that to other people, if I'd shown that to like whoever developed the curriculum for Skip Barber or Lucas School or the Ron Fellows Corvette School, they go, you can't do that. you've got to start here and go here and then here and then here and then here. And I turned all that stuff around. You know what? The very first thing that we worked on, the very first day we went to a racetrack, it was not the line. You know what we worked on?
Nope.
How to release the brake pedal. Because he had bad habits from driving on the road. And the very first thing that we did was we worked on you gotta learn how to release the brake pedal. And then we can start working out of it. It was months before we even started talking about the line through the corner. But the interesting thing is, as he figured out how to release the brake pedal, he started driving the line on his own.
Oh.
So, because the car was telling him what to do, it wasn't me
Yeah.
telling him what to do. And so, you going from here to here, that pathway, people can tell you need to go there, 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 there. But wouldn't it be really cool if you figured out that, if I go over here and then I feel that, and that tells me I need to go over here, I actually get here a little quicker,
Mhm.
and I figured it out on my own. Wouldn't that be cool?
Would be cool. I just got to make a spreadsheet now.
Yeah.
Many
So,
colors,
see,
many paths.
the other thing that I'm going to say, the other big speed secret that the best drivers have
Mhm.
is they might use a spreadsheet for a little bit, and then they take that spreadsheet, and you can see them like just throwing it out the window of their cars or driving down the track. And at some point in time, they go, "Screw the spreadsheet. I just got to go and do it and drive.
Mhm.
Just drive.
Just drive." And well, we had Colin Brown, Jeff's son, on our podcast. Just I don't know when this show is going to air and when our last show aired, but in the past month or so. And Colin is a brilliant example of a driver who can be very, very logical, analytical. Jeff has shown us videos. Sam's going to cracked up when we saw these things. Jeff sent us videos of him when he was like 5 or 6 years old,
It
running
was like a
shock
school project. Yeah.
on a shock dyno, and now he's in front of this video camera explaining how a shock absorber works.
Mhm.
It is one of the cutest and funniest things you've ever seen in your life. But that's how his mind works, right?
Right.
But there comes a point in time when he's in the car, he goes, "Screw it. I'm going to try shit and see what happens." And the very best drivers, again, find that balance between being very analytical, thoughtful, all that kind of stuff. And then at a certain point in time, go, just do it. And so, again, I can sit here and say, that's one of the speed secrets. That's one of the big, 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 big secrets. And yet, I don't think there's anybody that can say, oh, now's the time to look at the spreadsheet. Now's the time to throw the spreadsheet away. Now's the time to be analytical. Now's the time to just do it. That's another one of those. It depends. It's constantly changing.
Right.
But when you get it right, it's magic.
Mhm.
One of the things I find really cool about all this is that there are so many people who are willing to tell you that the path to success in anything, right, involves A or B or C and only that. And anybody I've ever met who's any good in any field, whether it's creative stuff, whether it's engineering, whether it's driving a race car, whether it's athletics, anything, ultimately they always acknowledge that there's a time for everything, right? The analogy I think in a race car is there's a time for data, time to reap and sow and blah blah blah. But there's a time for data, there's a time for feeling the car, there's a time for concentrating on balance, there's a time for thinking long and hard about tenths and the green lights on the dash and traffic and maximizing every last little bit based on what you're being given. But no, none of those paths are the only tool you have. And the really, really talented people in any field switch back and forth. And they don't go into the fight with a chef's knife or a paring knife. They go into the fight with a butcher block full of knives, and they pull them out as they need it, and then they put them back when they don't need it. And that's what's amazing to me, is because everybody seems to want to point toward a golden answer for any kind of problem solving that involves the the weird gushy stuff between our ears that makes all of our decisions. And in the end, it's different for everybody. I mean, like however, whatever I'm good at and bad at in a car, that came about because I had to figure out how I learned and then work backward from that. And yeah,
Mm.
all of the mistakes I make are rooted in that. And anytime I get stuck, it's usually because I'm falling back on what's comfortable and not what's, smart. And 9 times out of 10, what's smart is just assuming I don't know something, backing up and going, wait, what's actually the issue here? It's funny. It's such a dynamic thing, right?
It is.
What Sam said. What Sam said.
This
Right.
is great. I
Yeah,
I love this. Can I get a button that just does that on the podcast? What Sam said. What
yeah,
Sam
yeah.
said.
What Sam said.
And the cool thing is, Sam, is it really just it totally supports and confirms why I say it depends.
It
Does.
depends. Speed secret. It depends. Ask
So
questions. Speed secret one. Ask questions and assume you don't know anything. Speed secret two. I don't know. Maybe. Depends. Who knows? I don't have answers. What's speed secret three, Russ?
It
That's
might
three secrets.
it might be you.
can I ask a question? Can I ask a question of Sam here?
No. No, you may not.
Mickey,
It's your
Bill, do
it's
I have
your
your permission?
it's your podcast, Ross.
Okay, Sam, you're outnumbered. Okay,
Oh
so
no. Okay.
Sam, you have, as a journalist, you have talked to a lot of really successful people, and
Yeah.
I know some drivers that I mean, Alexander Rossi and Robert Wickens, right? Didn't you spend some time with Robert?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, a bunch of people. Yeah. Why?
I mean, think about that. Think about those drivers that you have talked to, and go, what's the common theme amongst them? What's the common?
Ooh, interesting. All of them. You know how, okay, so there's an old line about Los Angeles where every party you go to, every person you talk to at every party in Los Angeles, they're always sitting there kind of looking beyond you, looking around the room to see if there's somebody more important they should be talking to. The only thing I can line up with, the only way I can sum up the one thing that all of those people have in common, and like over the course of my career, it's been everybody from like Mario to Kimi to Wickens to runoffs winners. I mean, everybody, massive spectrum of people. That's really the coolest part of the job, right? Is you get to sit there and be the dumb guy in the room with people who know everything about what they do. But the only common thread I think I can pull it down to is it's the inverse of that LA thing. No matter what they're doing, they focus on it as if it's the most important thing, but you know that that's just the surface because you'll ask a question, the smart ones, and this isn't like they're one-dimensional athletes, right? There are people who, their entire life is race car drive or basketball throw, or can you tell I'm a sports person? A baseball hit with stick, right? That's the thing.
Stick, yes. Sharp stick.
Yeah, the sharp stick, sure. But there are one-dimensional sports people. But by and large, the closer you get to the top, the more complex they get. But you get the sense that you never get that LA party sense of them, not being able to drill down. They have that thing going on, but you'll ask a question that you think is an inherently kind of simple, straightforward thing, and there's one of 5 or 6 answers. And then they will pull out something that shows that clearly they were 3,000 threads in the back of their head that they just tied together as you were talking and put into context with this and that and the other. And they suddenly make you realize that the thing you're talking about is far more complex than you knew, and that their approach to it is far more complex. And that applies for literally everybody. I mean, I spent I spent 20 minutes with Kimi Räikkönen once, and Kimi probably said 15
words?
words that entire time. Three, well, he
Sorry.
warmed up 15, but he probably spent like 15 words that entire time, and it was even that was his version of it, right? Like I expected it to be 3 words, and all of them were going to be grunt or blah or whatever the hell he says. It's interesting though because the common thread is really just they see layers of depth in their chosen profession that other people don't. And that's amazing. And that's also the inverse applies, right? When you meet somebody who's just kind of a so, they won the regional championship or like, they're the local golf pro, they tend to see things a little more flat and less nuanced and layered. And at the
Mhm.
party, you can tell that they're looking past you, right? That's a strange metaphor, but it kind of makes sense.
So
Mhm.
one of the things that comes out of that is every time that I've ever spoken to anybody of that level,
Yeah.
they they listen. Like
Mhm.
they're like you could be I've had or I've seen I'm trying I can actually remember a time sitting next to Nigel Mansell at an IndyCar race, and spectator came up and asked him a question, and you could see him paying attention and thinking about the question almost in a way of, how do I use this?
Hmm.
What can I learn from that question that may seem so basic and simple and uninformed even,
Right.
but he's thinking about it in a way of, well, yeah, that's interesting, let me think about that. Like that's kind of what was going on.
Okay, that's amazing, right? Because people always say that the one quality common to writers or creatives is that they are observers, right? But
Mhm.
I maintain that that's what's common to anybody who's good at what they do. And I mean like top 10, top 5, top 2%. They they're looking for detail, they're noticing, they're paying attention, and ultimately it just comes down to what you said, which is asking questions like, can I use this? How does this work? What's that? And the good ones, no matter the field, they're always interested in something that's complex and dynamic that they don't know anything about, right? It's why like Michael Jordan showed up at a MotoGP paddock, what was it, 20 years ago, and went, this is amazing, and then started asking questions and all these stories about it, right? How he just dove deep into it. And anybody, you see it all the time when you see people crossing disciplines, right? They step out of water polo, champion water polo player steps out of that, goes and watches Wimbledon. All of a sudden, it's like, well, what the hell is this? How does it work? Right? Curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. They're
Hmm.
That's the other thing, Bill, is they're all weird.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. All of them. Every last one of them. Yeah, totally.
They're all weird. Yeah, yeah,
Oh man.
Neurodivergence is our pride and pleasure.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
Mhm.
And I actually thought for a while that I could be like a world champion because I'm like in terms of on the weirdness scale, I'm world champion caliber. Might not.
there's a shirt. That's a shirt. I'm gonna
You're,
write that
you're
down.
gonna have a wardrobe by the time this whole episode's done. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
We've
yeah.
we've only got 2 more hours to keep up with mental.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
God.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Miss Vicky,
Yes,
I haven't let you speak yet. I'm sorry. I suck at
that's
this hosting
okay.
thing. You
That's
got
okay.
you got something, or I've got like 10 of them.
Well, I just wanted to tell Ross that in my every time we do a check-in, that I really do think I had a growth moment in the process of everything that, through talking with you and suggestions and things I should do. I don't worry about the boards anymore.
Break markers.
The brake board. I don't.
Well,
Um, and I,
so how do you know where to break?
huh?
How do you know when to break?
How
What
do
do
I
you know?
know when to brake? I look at my apex now
Ah,
and I gauge it through that. I don't pay attention to the boards. And I actually started looking through the turn more than just focusing on the turn. So that those were some growths. The other thing is that when we were at a race, we were at a particular race, and do you ever kind of have one of those races when
yeah.
everything you learned just started to click? And
Mhm.
that's what was happening. And we were doing so good. We really were doing so good that I really didn't want to get out of the car at all. Um,
That's so great.
that,
When did it?
it
Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't I I played my games really well, I think, and my times were really good. But
When did it?
at that particular race, what I was doing was I was really just focusing on the track. I wasn't really focusing on people at all. Um, when I hit the wall, And granted, I was really disappointed that I had done that.
But you hit the wall going really fast, so that's good.
But
Hmm.
I did a lot of self-reflection on that.
Aren't you guys married? Like you
Yeah,
just
right. I did a lot of self-reflection on that part. And what I was doing was I was pushing myself harder than I normally would, which is actually not a bad thing.
yeah.
But I don't think I necessarily had the control that I needed. I and what I ended up doing was I ended up um driving against a person instead of racing the track.
Mm.
And when I did that is when I started losing a little bit of control of not so much the car. I did end up losing control of the car, but I lost control of the game.
Yeah. Well,
Because I kept constantly with this one particular car, it was always a battle back and forth, and it was laps. It was 9 laps, 10 laps, and we just couldn't get past each other, back and forth, back and forth. And I think I just got in that got into my headspace, and it wasn't anger, it wasn't anything. It was just that I wasn't racing the track it anymore.
Okay, so what did it feel like when it clicked? What was that like?
yeah.
What did it feel like?
Yeah,
It it felt like
good, bad?
it
Start with
felt
that.
pretty it felt really good. It felt like the laps and lap times that I were doing, I was not doing, best times the whole time.
Okay.
But
You're pretty close.
but things didn't worry me on the track that used to worry me on the track. And I was really pushing to go a little gear higher. And I really wasn't beating the car, but I was really paying attention to the track, and I didn't have all the what it was it took the uncertainty and the fear out of racing.
That's so cool. Did
So
it,
I think
did you
that's what
notice it?
I
Did
did
you
notice
notice
it.
it when you happened? When it happened and you noticed it, what did you do? Did you say something to yourself? Did you think, okay, cool, this is happening? Or did you
What
try
it
and put it in the
was
back of your
was that I
head? Or
knew I had to come in,
okay.
but I was in such a zone that to me mentally it felt like trying to pull a cat out of something. You know what I mean? It's just, I want to get back in because that was just the most amazing feeling that I
Yeah.
had, to not have to have all these thoughts about the insecurities that you have sometime when racing, when you're just racing.
Yeah.
And not paying attention to the boards, I'm paying attention to the apexes. I'm getting not getting up on people, but navigating traffic and not having to worry about navigating traffic. You get in with the groups, and you just do your thing. And
It's such a great feeling. God, I miss it. It's
but
so good.
but when you have it for like that first time, it's
Yeah.
like that was a good stint. That was a really, you know in your heart that that was a good stint.
Yeah.
So,
I got to the point, I remember the very first time it happened. I don't remember where or when it was, but you know how it's like relationships or any key
hmm
moment in your life. You have this vague sense in your head of what it was like, but
hmm
you can't, and you don't know what pants you had on or like what you had for breakfast that day. But
right.
I remember the first time it happened and I vividly remember thinking like, wait, is this, don't think about it too much. And then years later ended up figuring out that like how important it was to not pay attention to how much I was paying attention to things because I was screwed up,
Right.
to not call out it's like when you see the magic eye poster and if you actually start, you're like, oh, I see the sailboat. And then you look at it, you're like, oh no, the sailboat's gone.
Right.
The moment
Right.
you
Right. Right.
identify it, it goes away. But it's such a
Yeah.
Ross and I talk about this all the time because it's such a weird little slippery kind of mercury thing. But once you get it, you know it. And then it's
Right.
that dance of keeping it around without letting it go, without touching it.
Right.
That's so cool. Have you
Yeah.
gotten there since? Have you had that feeling since?
No, no, because when I went into my next stint, did I end up doing something with the car on the
Yeah.
second stint?
You drove into the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
because my headspace had switched over. Basically, I was cocky, is what it was.
but
No.
that's all connected, right? Like that's what's so cool is that
But
you have enough distance on this and you were paying enough attention to know what happened. Like most
right,
people can't talk about this the way you talked about it. That's rad.
right,
And
yeah.
the
I
second part of it is, sorry,
no. I just did a lot of self-reflection on, you
good
know,
for you.
what how I got to where I was and how and why I did that move and why I hit the wall, and it was overconfident. It was overconfidence, and my headspace was not on the track. It was trying with this car. So now I know that when I go back on the track, those are the things that I need to not do again.
But that's great. Again, most people don't get that. They just come down to, well, there was oil, or I don't know, that person was something something, or something broke in the car. Like the fact that you have answers means you're thinking about it, and that's part of it, right? I mean,
Right.
stopping and pulling it apart. Speaking as a well-known neurotic who constantly overthinks everything he does and then pulls it apart later, like, there are some ways that works for success. I'm just gonna
Right.
say.
Right. Yeah.
So,
That's super cool, though.
Bill, you asked for secrets,
Hmm.
like the big secret. Vicky just described one of them, and that is getting into that zone, getting into that flow. And you described it in a few different ways. And I think to me, listening to your talk, the most interesting part was when Sam asked you, what was it like? And you didn't go, oh, it was great. It took you a while because,
Mhm.
like you said, you weren't thinking about it.
Mm-mm.
Because if you had thought about it and thought about, well, this feels magic, oh, nah, then it goes away. So I think the fact that you weren't thinking about it, you were just doing. And
Mhm.
as you described it, is you were just focused on driving the track.
Mhm.
When you talked about the then focusing on somebody else, it just
Mhm.
reminded me of I was at a HPDE event a few years back, and there was, I don't know, their advanced group. Uh, the event organizer said to me, "Could you talk to them at lunchtime because there's way too much sort of aggressive
Mhm.
passing and all sorts of stuff going on out there." So I had, I don't know, 15, 20 of them. And I just said, hey, everybody, I'd just like you to introduce yourself. Tell us your name and what car you're driving. And everybody went around the room and it was like, hi, I'm John. I'm driving a red Camaro. Hi, I'm Sally. I'm driving a yellow MX-5. And it went around that afternoon. It all went away.
Mhm.
So in that setting, I think it went away from that jerk in the Camaro to
Right.
that's John. So there was some, but I think you took it to another level where it wasn't thinking you weren't thinking about somebody else. You were just thinking about the act of driving.
And two of those things happened at the same time at the track on two different stints at the same race, basically. So it was easy to say, side by side, well, this is what was a success in the first one. This is what happened in the second one. And when we first started racing earlier in our, how many years we've been doing this, we raced with my son, who was a late teen, and he would just come off the track just angry all the time, and he would just start talking about the people and the cars and the people that and I was like, and that's where it came up. It was like, you're not racing people, you're racing the track. The people are just there doing their thing too. So if you focus on your racing and your track and you getting around traffic, don't look at whatever car that you're trying to do whatever. Um, because once you start, I feel that once you literally start in an endurance racing thing, once you start racing people, and making those your mission, you have no idea who's in that car on what stint that is. So that could be a completely different performance that's going to be going. And if you're just sitting here doing laps, chasing cars, you're going to hit a wall.
What Vicky said. So we've gone from what Sam said to now it's what Vicky said. Okay. Um,
I'm sensing a trend in Ross's coaching here.
Yeah. And the other thing, I'm sitting here going, you know what? You just described Max Verstappen over the course of 2 Grand Prix. At Brazil, he was not thinking about anybody else.
Yep.
He was just driving, and he was just driving the track and the conditions. And it was like that was like one of the greatest driving performances I've ever seen in my life. The previous race, he was racing Lando. And there was no way he was going to let Lando past him, right? And it became, they apparently have been good friends. At that moment in time, I don't know what was going on, but it was like, there is no way that guy is going to pass me. And it became personal. And, I think the big thing that people have said about Max Verstappen is, and I think during the telecast and the TV coverage, it was, I don't know if it was Martin Brundle or Karun said, they said, he's got more talent in his baby finger than the rest of the field does. Why did he need to do what he did in Mexico? Like he didn't,
Right.
He doesn't, but I think, you know what? He's human, and humans make mistakes and they access wrong little mental programs. And on that day, in that moment, in those conditions, he accessed the wrong one. And then the following weekend, like I said, it was one of the most brilliant drives I've ever seen.
Somebody had a talk with him is what happened.
That didn't happen.
But to your point, maybe he had a talk with himself.
Yeah.
Maybe he did what you did and sat back and reflected on how did that go? And to what Sam said is he's asking, what do I need to do better? And he kind of reset and went, you know what? I need to stop thinking about racing him or whatever and just drive the car.
Yeah. And just try to get your best laps in. I mean, your clean laps, your best clean laps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't want to go best lap all the time because that's fast lap. You don't want to do fast lap. You just want to do best lap.
And another thing you said, Vicky, was you had just had a brilliant experience on the track. Now you're getting back in for the second time. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And you're going, this is going to be another great one. And
that's exactly what I was thinking.
And, one of the things that gets in the way of getting back into the zone or in flow is that confidence thing. And, one of the things, and this whole thing around flow and the father of flow, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who just kind of really, he named flow. And one of the big things he talked about is when you're feeling challenged, but you're feeling, I've got the ability to do this, and those match. That's when you perform at your best.
Right.
When it's like, this is a massive challenge and I don't think I can do this, you're not going to perform at your best. If you're going, this is easy, I've done it before. Man, last stint, I was in the zone. Confidence up here, challenge down here, you don't perform at your best. When you've got a good balance of those two things, magic happens.
Yeah. And I did, like I said, did hit the wall. And it's not terrible. I already have a donor car. And the good thing is that when I did hit, everything was ahead of the skirt weld. So it's not like it crunched and damaged. I think I damaged mostly the radiator frame and the radiator, I think maybe might have touched a little bit of the exhaust manifold, but everything forward of that is fine. I might have had a shift in the motor mounts, but I mean the engine itself was not damaged or anything like that. So that was good. But my thing is that you know, trying to recapture that, also telling myself that I feel really good. I feel really confident. I should work with the car and push the car more, push myself a little bit more. So part of it was experimenting, part of it was still trying to get that zone again. And then, I just kind of took a little left
So
in my process.
yeah. So two things there is I got to tell you the number of drivers who end up going faster after they've crashed the car is pretty high. Like, and
Yeah.
a lot of them go, it's not that scary. It's not that bad. I didn't get
Mhm.
hurt. Nothing bad really happened. Yeah, cost me damage your car, money, whatever. But I got over it. And
Yeah.
they end up driving faster afterwards because there's that, in the beginning, it's like, what happens when you crash? That's,
Mhm.
the fear of the unknown. It's really scary. So
Yeah.
you may find that it's actually helps you having done that. The other part is you can't try to get back into flow or zone.
Mm-mm.
Um,
No,
but I
I
will
learned
tell you, I
that.
will tell you that having experienced it, it will happen more often because you know that sometimes you kind of just got to let go. Sometimes you got to, focus more in on the act of driving or the track or whatever. But it's like anything. Once you've experienced it once, it's a whole lot easier to get back there. And I'm not going to say it's going to happen every single time
Mm-mm.
because Max Verstappen at Mexico Grand Prix, it didn't happen for him.
No.
No, it did
So
not.
yeah,
I kind of refer to it like when you have your first one, it's shocking and it kind of sets you back a little bit. But when you have your second one, I mean, Jennifer did the same thing. Jennifer, had a two-car incident, or two incidents with a car.
Mhm.
Um, and it's like ripping a Band-Aid off. It's like, well, that sucked, and I feel really bad, and there's nothing anybody could have really said when they come over. It's like, oh, dang, I was like, I really just don't want to talk. I'm gonna go take a nap, and I'll come back out later. I just really don't want to.
yeah.
So, but now it's just, all right, we're going. It was our last race anyway. Let's go into the garage and we'll just send it out and have it welded. I told the guys, listen, I just want you to straighten it. I want you to weld it. Um, to over at the shop that's not too far from me. I said, I'm not looking for insurance company perfection. I said, you just get the thing on there and we'll manage the rest.
Wait a minute.
So
Insurance company and perfection in one
that's
sentence?
right.
Possible?
That's right.
Sorry,
I,
if anybody listening is part of an insurance company, sorry, don't take that personally.
In-
yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. I've got the whenever I get to ask somebody like Sam or Ross, I always ask. Okay. So I don't have a really good way to set this question up. So there's zero transition and has nothing to do with what we just talked about. And I really wish at the end of this, if Sam were to think about it and like give me like a Sam Smith version of this so I could actually ask the question so I don't have to do 20 minutes of intro for a 5-second question. So here
Put
it
it
is.
on a t-shirt, Sam.
I know, put it on a t-shirt. So pretend this is my setup. This is where I'm going. You're an uncle to your niece or your nephew, whatever, and you have nearly unlimited budget. So what I refer to this as the ladder for cars. So what is the most fun car, cheapest, and then work your way up to so that to higher price cars with either more capability or more fun, so that they can learn what is great about driving a car. That's not what's the
Ooh.
fastest car. That's not what car drives the best. That's not what car has the most performance per dollar. It's the if you're going James May, you say the fizz. If you're going, what's the thing that, and then kind of give me a shopping list, and as soon as I have the money, just pretend. So this is the gift that you're giving to your niece or nephew.
And
Oh,
how old
interesting.
is the niece or nephew? I'm just
They
curious.
they are just starting. They are clay for you to mold, sir.
All Are we talking, does it have to be new or
Doesn't have
used
doesn't
or
have to be new. Like I know
oh
Ross is
man.
somewhere going to have an Elon in there. I know that's coming. No, it's
I mean,
coming.
that's such a
I
it's such a
know.
hard thing to answer because so
It
much of it
depends.
hangs on, oh, it does depend. Oh, it depends so much.
It
So much
does
of it
depend.
hangs on personality, what's available, where you are, what you like. I mean, the obvious answer is the obvious answer, right? You know what I'm going to say before I say it.
It's
It's the
always the
Miata.
answer. Mhm.
It's always the answer. And the answer for the Miata that I enjoy the most is probably an ND2. But is there a bad Miata? No, there are less interesting Miatas, right?
Mhm.
But that's such a it's such a cliche because everybody knows what that means. Sports car, simple, feelsome, has feedback, it sacrifices so much practicality to give you so much back in return.
Mhm.
But then, there are people who get up. We actually just talked to somebody this week on the show. There are people who get out of an ND2 and go, well, it's got too much body roll. And, I mean, kind of rides kind of flinty on anything but perfect pavement, blah, 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 right? You can pick it apart anyway. And I think if you're just getting into it, if you're just getting your license, and the answer is what's going to light the fizz and the fuse and the spark and give fledgling blank slate person the joy out of it, I think the answer is literally anything. I think if they want to find it, they're going to find it. I think you can find it in a minivan. I think you can find it in an SUV. I think you can find it in a dump truck. And I know because I've driven dump trucks and I've laughed my ass off. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, is it better? Are you more likely to land a jackpot with more favorable odds? Yeah. Like you throw somebody into a naturally aspirated Ferrari with a clutch pedal, they're going to be interested in it. You throw somebody into an ND2, they're going to be interested in it. But if they don't see what's great about wringing the neck of a Toyota Sienna on a back road because it's a giant cow and there's no reason it should do anything right and it does like two or three things right and it's giggly, like it really doesn't matter what it is. It just comes down to whether you have interest in finding the squealy point of a tire and managing weight transfer and like that weird kind of ballet of making all the inputs and the outputs come together. That's also a total cop out of an answer. So I should
I
probably
know.
just
I
say
was
something
I was
like
just I was just going to say
Mark
you
V GTI, but right. I mean, I'm a dork, right? You mentioned Elan. I have an Elan blueprint on my wall. Came out of the right behind me. If anybody's watching the video, it's the original Road and Track cross-section schematic drawing from the test page from
Mhm.
65 or whenever it was, the first one they tested. And I had it blown up at a sign shop when I was there. I found the acetate and scanned it. But that's there because that's a benchmark, right? Like the
Right.
other poster that you can't see just off screen is an E30 M3, first generation BMW M3. That's a benchmark. There are things that everybody points to as being, wow, this will give you the fizz. But I mean, Ross, where do you sit on this? I tend
Well,
to believe that if you're going to see it, you're going to see it. It doesn't matter what the car is, right?
yeah. First of all, someday Sam is going to walk into his office and go, "Where did it go?" And I'll
Yep.
The
be
giant
sneaking out the back
five
door
foot
with
long
that.
Elan is going to be gone.
That because I every time I see that on the wall back there, going, "Oh, I need that." So
It's
here's
It's almost life size too.
yeah, the
ding.
I think Bill, I think part of it is the car needs, and Sam and I have talked about this just recently again, is sometimes somebody looks at a car and the shape of a car makes them go, "Oh, that's cool."
Mhm.
And if the shape of the car doesn't give that feeling, it's a harder sell. I think even driving it, there's something, part of the reason why I like my Lotus Elan is because I can look at the shape of it and go, that's just right. It's a great shape. So I think there is part of that. But I'd also throw in another thing here is a hot hatchback front wheel drive car that can be tossed around and corrected
Mhm.
so that it's forgiving, um, so that they get the thrill of driving I'm assuming we're taking them to the track. And
Sure.
going to throw them on the track and get going here. I would not shy away from a front wheel drive car. There is a reason why when I take a group of drivers to the Nürburgring and Spa every year, the car that I choose to drive at the Nürburgring is a front wheel drive car. Like that's my favorite car to drive there. And the reason is that I can drive it absolutely flat out around there and not worry and just giggle all the way around. I get into a Porsche GT3 RS, yeah, the latest and greatest whatever, and I'm leaving a little margin everywhere. And I'm not having, yeah, it's cool. It's fast. But it's not as much, it's not giggly fun. It's fun, but it's almost like, oh, got away with that fun. So I think there's something about just getting somebody in a car, and that ties back into the whole Miata thing, and a BRZ or whatever Toyota calls that thing.
86.
Yes. An E36 BMW. The other thing, you said budget is not really an issue here.
Mhm.
So part of it depends on if my niece or nephew, if they're like, oh, well, Uncle Ross has got all the money in the world, so I'm going to take advantage of him. Okay. There's
I'm
that.
sorry, wait, if that's the case, can I be your nephew? Can I sign up for this? Is there a sign up sheet? I want in.
Installment plan, maybe.
I would hate to disappoint you, my little nephew Sam.
Uncle Ross is lame. Note to self.
Yeah. So if they have a little bit of a conscience and they're going, I don't want to cost them a whole bunch of money if I crash this thing. So, if that's the case, I wouldn't put them into a car that's $100,000 car.
Right.
Even if I could, I just don't think it would be. I don't think they'd have the same level of. I think the people that get into the sport young, they get in there and they have the giggling fun, and it's that's what hooks them for life.
And I think that's the thread between our two vastly different answers here, right? Is if I had to really hook somebody and it was like, gun to my head, this kid's going to be into this, or, there's going to be a bullet through your ears in the next 5 minutes. It comes down to, or if I really cared about them, which, it shows you how my head works, but it probably comes down to, I would sit there and I'd build a list of things I wanted them to see, right? And it wouldn't matter if they saw that in rental Camry, if they saw it in the world's greatest exotic hypercar or whatever, but it would be a list of, all right, first off, go drive the stretch of PCH, Pacific Coast Highway that runs from San Francisco to Oregon, run the entire length of it. Second, figure out a way to get that kid to Germany, show that kid the two extremes of German driving, which are one, a derestricted Autobahn at whatever hour it takes to find the chunk of that A road that doesn't have traffic on it so you can actually do something silly, and then B, the ring, and show them that. And then make the rest of the list. God, you could go on. There would be a British B road. There would be New England in the fall. There would be the Appalachians near where we live, where it's like England crossed with Southern California, crossed with Northern California, crossed with parts of Deliverance in a good way. That list is a mile long. And at some point, you'd even take them to, like, it doesn't have to be track experiences, but, figure out a way to get them to ride around Road America in a bus, right? Show them the full spectrum of what's there, and then say, this is why we do this. And it doesn't matter what the machine is. The machine can make it better or worse, but ultimately those places and moments and experiences, like if that lights off something sparky in your brain, like I can have fun in a Camry, I can have fun in a Honda Fit with two dead cylinders on PCH on that stretch when there's nobody there, or Road America, or the mountains near us. Like if that clicks, then there's something there. I maintain that the sheet metal is it's just a tool, and there are really, really good tools, but
And Sam, I think our answers are very similar, actually. And the only other thing that I would add, as part of now Sam's building this whole program for them, And the only other thing that
Sign up now.
I would add to it is I would take them for a ride, and I would volunteer to do this. I would take them for a ride in a GT3 RS and some Ferrari. And if they don't fall in love with the sound of those two cars, I'm not sure they're ever going to get that.
Right. Because ultimately, you can't plant a seed. You can't incept somebody with this. But what you can do, because everybody comes to it for different reasons, but it's all out of the same box of tools, right? What you can do is say, okay, this is the jar of candy beans, and there are 3,000 flavors in here. Stick your hand in and start eating them and see which ones you really like. And eventually somebody's gonna be like, well, the blue ones are mine. I'm there for that. Or the green ones or the yellow ones. I don't know. Now I want to start doing this course, Ross. It's just like just break people, just see how much rad we can shove at their brains until it falls apart.
And I knew that at some point Sam would bring up candy.
I'm sorry. I've got some hidden in my desk right now.
Yeah.
It's a flaw. It's a vice. Grown-ups are allowed to be broken. I just am broken in a lot of different ways.
For you, Sam, we did add we have a segment called the Fast and Furious Storytime Questions. We did add a recent Fast and Furious Storytime Questions as a tribute to you. So you'll be the first one to get the question. What is your Mount Rushmore of candy?
Me?
Oh, what?
Oh, no. That's a
So
good
random.
question. No, that's a good question. Oh, man. I eat more candy than any grown adult should ever admit to eating. Okay, so no particular order. Mount Rushmore is what, like 4 presidents, 5 presidents?
Four,
Do we count 4?
Four.
Okay.
Four,
So,
and the guy who signed the check is the 4th one. Yeah.
okay, yeah. So Mount Rushmore candy. So God, this is gonna be easy. So number 1, again, no particular order. 1A. First one's definitely Sour Patch Kids because I'm a goober for them. And the standard sized, like there's so many varieties
What are
these
they?
days, but Sour Patch Kids.
Oh,
They're
Sour
little,
Patch Kids.
yeah. So go with the standard size ones, not the extra sour ones. You don't want the big kids that are like the size of your palm. You don't want the ones that are flavored like watermelon. You just want to go the OG. It's like classic Coke.
He's a pucker kind of guy.
Except next one. Ooh, next one's no pucker at all, and it gets made worse with pucker. That's Haribo gummy bears, but you don't want the American version. And that sounds elitist until you realize that you can get the German versions in most stores if you look for it. American ones are made with corn syrup. Haribo gummy bears. So Haribo,
Oh, the
H-A-R.
Haribo.
Yeah.
That's the ones that Mia eats.
Me eats. Maybe it's got sugar in it. Me eats it.
The American ones are built with corn syrup. The German ones are built with, I think, just regular sugar syrup or some kind of other gluten. Rest of the list, I don't know. It changes based on the week. Reese's Cups are great. I have a real soft spot for, that's 3. Let's go with the 4th one as, oh man. I don't know. The 4th one's a wild card because really I'm a sucker for novelty. Walk into Walgreens and just like cover your eyes and just start grabbing stuff off the shelf.
You guys ever eat flakes?
Who?
I'm sorry, what?
Flakes, yeah.
Flake?
No.
It's a flake bar. It's a Scottish European bar.
Yeah, I've seen them. I've never had them. What are they?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
they are.
I've been eating. No, I think they're by Cadbury, I think, or along that line. But they're from the United Kingdom. My grandmother used to bring them back when I was little all the time when she would go to Scotland. She would always bring a box of these flakes. So I grew up on these things. But what it is that it's almost like they have like this really thin when they're making them, it's almost like they have like a curtain of chocolate, but they keep rippling it back and forth. So it layers itself. So it's a very airy kind of bar when you eat it. So when you bite it, it just falls apart. So you eat it with the wrapper.
That's great.
And it's delicious. It really is.
And we know Scottish people know delicious food. Like,
yeah.
Hey,
we had a chocolate haggis.
Huh?
I love the chocolate haggis. Yeah,
I've actually had haggis.
I have had haggis too. I've had a lot of chocolate versions,
Both of you.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Haggis is like scrapple with oat.
Did you have it twice though? That's the question.
No.
Exactly.
No, it's like a different grain, but it's basically almost like scrapple.
Interesting.
So.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love weird European candies, mostly because they just do things that American candy is super straightforward. It's like the way we do everything. Take some volume, apply it as much as you can to a given idea or flavor. And German or European or Czech or Norwegian, Scandinavian candies, it's all like, here's some nuanced, interesting things, a bunch of things you never expected.
Have you ever had
Great.
Smarties?
Cars are the same way.
You ever
Smarties.
had
Yeah.
Oh,
Smarties?
Smarties are good. Yeah,
Smarties?
Smarties are good.
Oh
One
yeah,
note, but good.
Smarties are
It's a
mine.
good note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually, sir, what do you how describe Smarties? What is it?
It's basically just I don't know. I open you know how they come in the wrapper? I just open the wrapper and dump all of them
No.
in my mouth. You're supposed to eat them as they come.
Yeah. No, see,
It's
that's a
powder.
I
That's
kind of think of like a hardened pixie stick.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is.
so that's an
Completely. Yep.
American Smartie.
Yeah.
So there's Canadian Smarties, and Smarties is it's
Comes
like
out
a
of the comes
no,
out of the
it's
wrapper and
almost
says
like
it depends.
it's almost like it's almost like
I'm sorry.
it's almost like an M&M. They're like M&Ms, but you know what M&Ms, the outer cover,
Yeah.
Hmm.
it's a Smartie is softer, slightly softer.
Oh,
A thinner cover. But
hmm.
it's yeah. Someday I'll send you some Canadian Smarties.
Every time I have been to Canada and attempted to eat novelty food, it has turned out well. The first
Really?
time I had ketchup chips, Lay's ketchup chips, the first time I've had all dressed chips. Um, I don't think I've had bad novelty food in Canada, and that's not saying all of it was good. It's just all interesting, right? I
Hmm.
Yeah.
mean, even like the Burger King version of poutine is pretty solid, and I would go back. And
Uh,
it's terrible, but I would go back.
I would not poutine. No, I'm sorry. I'm Canadian, but
Of
poutine.
course,
No,
you're sorry.
no, 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 no. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All
All right.
right. I
So
I've
feel
got
this is
I
like a
feel
really
like
good
that's
podcast about cars and driving, isn't it?
and candy. Yeah.
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 I
That
feel
So
like we're
that was
winding
just
down
so
here.
random.
Yeah.
I, I
No,
had
that was
to.
good. That was solid, Bill.
If you have as dumb a segment as we have as the Fast and Furious Storytime questions, where we have literally 60 of these things, and you don't ask the person who is the tribute for why you have one of them, I take my chances. I do what I can. Okay, I'll ask a car question. How about that? Fine, be that way. Don't make me do my podcast the way I want to do it. It's fine. All right. All right, Ross and Sam, what are your biggest aha moments as drivers? You probably have more than one.
Oh,
Oh,
this is going to be good.
so are you asking when I've been driving when like I had this like that kind of a moment?
I mean, it depends, but yeah. See what I did there for
Ooh.
you?
Good answer. Good answer.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Bringing it back around on the guitar.
So for me, I mean, it's really simple. It was actually my first time driving a race car on a racetrack. Was at Willow Springs in a Formula Ford, and coming into turn 4, sort of going up the hill, and well, it's actually I guess I was going into 3, then going up to 4, and I did something with the brakes and I caused this little weight transfer. And the next thing I know, the car was going like this. It was rotating. And I'm going, how did that happen? I didn't turn the steering wheel like that. And that was like, I'm going to say, going back to your question of like, how do you hook somebody? That hooked me. That was the thing. And I'd grown up around the sport. I watched all this stuff. I kind of knew technically what was supposed to happen and all that kind of stuff. But when I experienced using weight transfer to turn a car, my life changed. Or maybe it went where it was supposed to go anyways. I don't know. But that became my world.
Okay. As much as you hate talking about yourself, Sam, aha moments should be okay. We should be able to get through this one.
Okay. All right. I've got two. They're tied. So the first one is similar to Ross's. I forget where it was. So I started off in. I actually started my first competitive driving event was an autocross just in high school at some point. Couple of road cars, and then a friend put me in somebody's Formula Ford, and just sitting there and thinking that I really liked focusing on this a lot. But that's not the aha moment. That's the lead into the story behind the aha moment. story behind the aha moment is that I didn't do any real kind of high-speed performance driving until college when I was bored one weekend. I went to school in St. Louis, and I was bored one weekend, and Gateway International Raceway is just across the river from St. Louis. It's in East St. Louis, which is a lot like the city of St. Louis, except not in any way like the city of St. Louis.
More
Mhm.
Easter.
And or it's more Easter. It's definitely in Illinois. And Gateway's a roval. It's pinched on one end and then has a kind of little squiggle in the middle of it. Forget how long the oval is. Somebody listening probably knows. But I wandered over there. There was a BMW Car Club DE that weekend. This would have been, I guess, 2001, maybe. And again, I grew up around a restoration shop and had been around club races before and like didn't really think much of it, but wandered over to see what was going on and didn't know I was kind of a doofus. I didn't know that DEs were a thing. You could just take your road car and just go do this. And that a year basically ended up there for the weekend and looked around. I was like, huh, this is cool. And somebody talked to a couple people and somebody said, you should come back next year. We do this once a year, or there's one in the spring. Came back in the spring and I had a bone stock 1976 2000 BMW 2002 as my daily driver. Was on stock springs and stock shocks and the stock tiny sway bars. And I was such a nerd that I, had a cam in it and side drafts, but I still wanted the tiny tires that it came on because I knew that it slid around on the street and that was fun. And 2002s were delivered on 165 section tires. So about as the contact patches, the whole tire was not much wider than your palm.
Mhm.
And I went and did this DE. And the first turn at Gateway is quick-ish. It's where you come off the oval into a left, into a kind of decreasing radius brake zone, and then a relatively tight decreasing radius left. I think it's decreasing. I haven't been there in 20 years. But somewhere in the second session, I came off the oval, whatever the hell that thing would do. It maxed out in fourth, which was like a buck 5 or 8 or God knows what, 10, 15, who knows. And came in a little too hot and thought, oh no, this isn't working. There's a giant wall and things are bad. And instinctively held the brakes longer because at Gateway, the way they teach at that point, the way they taught the DE line was brake, turn, settle the car to turn the car again, right? And I
Mhm.
held the brakes longer off the oval than I probably should have and deeper down into the corner, just like panicky, panicky, panicky. And I had always been a dork for smooth brake release, partially because my dad was one of those guys who just, you know, we drove around. When he taught me to drive a stick, we drove around our neighborhood for 2 weeks with him and saying, like, I think you can learn how to do this smoother over and over and over again before he would let me leave the neighborhood in the car. I had my license at this point, but he was the same with the brakes. He was like, I think you can do this smoother. Give it a shot. So I had practiced chauffeur stops my whole life, or not my whole life, my whole driving life, which at that point was probably 4 years and 3 years, whatever it was. And so I ended up almost accidentally with this really smooth brake release into turn one in turn 1 and 2 at Gateway, and the car just kept pivoting and turning, and it trimmed the weird, like there had been this thing where when I would turn the wheel and pick up the throttle or be abrupt on the wheel and do all kinds of silly shit stuff with my feet trying to make the car work, and the front tires would slide and weight would move around and the car was soft and gushy, and all of a sudden managing the brake like that calmed everything and pivoted it and kind of like got it up and turned it in a way that felt like weird magic vector. And I didn't understand what happened. And we came in and I talked to the instructor. I'm like, that was really cool. What was that? He goes, well, you trailed the brakes. And I said, well, cool. Can I do that again? He's like, yeah, just don't try and kill us next time. And I went, cool. Did I try to kill you? He goes, yeah. He's like, why don't we sit here for a bit? That was the big thing. And then realizing that like that works in everything, like
Mhm.
absolutely everything. And then it makes the same difference in different ways and everything. That was wake up one.
Mhm.
Wake up two was right after I started testing, right after I got into business and started testing really high powered exotics and sports cars. So this was roughly 20 years ago, I guess. So 4 or 5 years after that track day. Um, and by that point, I had, done a little bit of club racing, but not a lot, and had a decent amount of natural car control. But I got into really, really high horsepower stuff with big tires and a lot of spring rate and a lot of torque whenever you wanted, and was spooked by it. And somewhere in one of the first 2 test weekends, 3 test weekends, not weekends, test days we did, because I was during the week. This was when I was at Automobile Magazine. And so this would have been like 2006, I guess. Somewhere in that period, I realized that, this $250,000 car is still just tires and mass, and it's making power, but tell that I can tell what to, my foot has control on it. And then realizing that it moved around at the limit of the tire the same way that everything I'd ever met moved around. It was just happened in a different way and a different speed, and that you had to give different inputs to make it do different things than the Miatas and 2002s and E30s and stuff I'd grown up driving, Volvo 240s, things like that. And that was bonkers, because it suddenly was like the key just unlocked a door into this whole world of, cars are all the same. I mean, they're all different, but physics is all the same. And the thing feels a certain way. Like a 911 is a totally different thing from a, Shelby GT500, right? But the two of them have the same kind of sort of similar vibe when they're up on plane, and the tires right at the limit of what it's got, and you're being delicate with it. And I love that. And it was this, I don't know, everybody tells you to be scared of things you don't understand, and big complex systems and big high horsepower cars, and just realizing that, like I could slide this here. I could get a lap out of it the same way I get a lap out of a spec Miata. You just have to think more. It's neat. It was bonkers. And it's one of those two things are tools that I tap into every time I get in the car. It's just this reminder that it's all the same, even though it's different. Sorry, that was a really long story, but does that make sense?
Plenty of tape in this podcast machine. Never worry.
And Bill, can I have a second one then?
Of course, Ross.
Since Sam took two. Yeah. Can I have? Okay. So, and I don't remember year and all that kind of stuff, but it was like I was about 18, and I stupidly found, I'm looking through that time the classifieds in a newspaper in Vancouver, and go, Lotus Elan. Ooh, I saw those in Road and Track, and I bought it. And I really learned how to drive in that car. I would go out. I had a job then, which was weird.
What did you do? What was Ross Bentley's real job? What was it?
My first job, I worked for the power company in BC Hydro, as a meter reader. I spent my days walking from door to door, reading the electric and gas meters on the houses. And anyways, that was a whole competitive thing. And yeah, okay, I killed it.
Shocking. It was a competitive thing.
Yeah. But I bought this Lotus, and I would come home at the end of the day, and I would go and drive every single day. And all I would do is try to match my downshifts, my upshifts. My whole thing was, you can't feel any control movement. When I started to apply the throttle, you should not have been able to tell when I started. When I applied the brakes, when I got off the brakes, when I shifted up, when I shifted down, you weren't allowed to feel. And I would just go and drive for hours every single day.
Wow.
And one night I'm out
Vicky's
driving.
like, nerd. And I'm like, yes, my God, nerd. Yes.
Yeah. And one night I go out driving, and there's this really super twisty mountain road that was a ways away from home, but I would go out there, and I'm blasted on this piece of road that I've never seen before. And it's super twisty and up and over hills, and just a wonderful, wonderful road. And I come into a corner similar to you, Sam, in turn one at Gateway, and going, I'm going too fast. And I do this, like I pop up over the hill, and this thing turned to the left, and going, that's a lot tighter than I expected here. So I'm kind of on the brakes, and there's that fraction. I remember this so vividly because I remember it when I went to Indy years later. But there was this little moment where my eyes went to the tree on the outside of the corner.
Oh.
And I could almost visualize how much damage this was going to do to my baby, my Lotus. And, fiberglass car, they don't wrap around trees.
No.
So that just popped in my head. And now I'm coming into this corner and I turn my head and I look to the exit of this corner.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I did stuff that I didn't know I knew how to do.
Ooh.
Like I downshifted, I
Mm-hmm.
released the brakes. I kind of got off the brakes to give some traction back to the tires. The car turned, and then I got on the throttle and accelerated out of the corner. And I went, holy crap, how did that happen? And then being me, I turned around and went back and did it again and
Oh,
again
wow.
and going, I got to figure out how I did that. And I realized that the reason I did what I did was, yes, I programmed myself to brake and downshift and be smooth and all that kind of stuff. But the key was I looked to where I wanted to go, and my brain just said, do whatever it takes to get there. Move your hands, move your feet, do all of what it takes to get there. And I did it. And that was a big aha moment of, yes, you're always told, look far ahead, look where you want to go. But that was like a cemented in my head of why or what to do when you're in a corner. Is just look to the exit. You'll find a way to get there. And I can remember that when I went to Indy and I started my rookie orientation at the Speedway, and you get to turn one, and it is mind-boggling when you get to turn one at over 200 miles an hour and you're trying to keep your foot flat to the floor and there's concrete walls on the outside of it, and you're just like, no, there's not. There's no concrete walls there. All there is that exit point over there. Get there. And I remember thinking, it's just like driving your Lotus years ago.
So close.
And exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So that was a major aha moment in my life.
That's cool. That's really cool.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I almost feel bad for our last question, but we have a policy that if the listener writes in, we ask their question.
Yes.
And we give them code names.
Ooh.
Okay. So we don't have permission. So we're gonna go with code name mental.
Oh, that's
It's tough
Who
to
could
break
it
our codes.
be?
It is tough
who
to
could
break
it
our codes.
be?
I don't know.
Who could it be?
I don't
Who
know.
could it be? Yes.
I mean, if anybody
Okay,
figures out
what
how to
does
break
this-
these code names, let's write us in.
I
it's
bet
fine.
he works for a rental car company and
He
he's
could-
just changed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It could be.
that's
It could be.
clever. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
What
And
does this fantasy person ask?
So we have a two-part question.
Ooh.
And the first one is serious, and the second one we share most of it less serious, but he does have a second question as a request. What are you both thankful for this past year?
Wow, Ross, you go first.
I don't want this to sound weird, but
It's a racing
Says
podcast.
everyone before a thing sounds weird.
It's a
Yes.
racing podcast, Russ. We aren't exactly straight down the middle here, you know?
it depends. No, there we go. No, I'm going to say what I'm thankful for is Sam and Jeff and I launching our podcast. It's not the car to be in January of this year. And Sam, correct me if I'm wrong. Well, I'm not. No, you don't need to correct. I have had a blast doing it. Spending
Wait,
time.
I was supposed to
talking-
correct you? No, Ross, you've had
Yeah.
a terrible time. You don't know anything
I
about
know I
your
come
own
across
feelings.
that way, but
Shame on you.
no, it has been an absolute hoot to do these shows with Sam and Jeff, and we've had a couple of guests on, but it's been really, really fun, and I guess really thankful that it's been growing. And as you guys know, I mean, growing a podcast is not something you just everybody's got a podcast, right?
Ross, I have to correct you for the first time ever. We know nothing about growing a podcast. We just know about making a podcast. The growth part, I gave up when I started like trying to figure out what the data showed. And then, if I do a podcast like this, if I write really long episode notes, if I write really short episode notes, if I have, topics, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But the only reason I talk about the growth part of it is it's fun to see people enjoying it. So I'm going to say that's one of them. The second one is this year I started remote coaching of my driver that races in IMSA. And I've been thankful for not having to getting on an airplane every single week of the year and being able to do what I do. And it works. Like, it's been really, really effective. I mean, Stephen and his co-drivers, I mean, they won the last race they won Petit Le Mans. They won the race before that at Indy. They won the Endurance Cup. It was a really, really good year. And Stephen's performing. Maybe that's the key. He's performing better than ever, and because I'm not at the track with him.
Because you're not there.
Because I'm not there. So yeah, no, it's been a hoot doing that. So those are two things that quickly come to mind. There's probably a list of 87 other things, but and I maybe got the priorities wrong, but those are the first two things that pop into my mind.
Fine. But and we thank you for your podcast because it is awesome. Both of you. Well, all three of you, but the third one's not here. But
yeah.
Sam, besides your book, which is fantastic.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so Ross took the podcast thing. So gee, Ross, thanks. You stole that from me. I'm thankful for that.
Well,
See, being
no,
competitive, I knew I needed to go first.
No, it's I actually do have to say the book, and this is going to sound like we're doing nothing but self-promoting our own self-promoting selves, but
you're doing it to nobody. There's nobody listening. Don't worry. You're fine.
that's okay. No, I
Much better.
I didn't. So I've been to the book. I put a book out. For those who don't know, I put a book out early this spring. It was a long time in the works. It's an anthology of my writing over some of my writing, selected pieces I've written about cars over the last 20 years. It took a long time to get the rights to it and a long time to assemble it. Wrote some new pieces for it, worked on the cover, put a lot of effort into it, not knowing if it would go anywhere or sell anything. I just was kind of reaching a crossroads in my career and knew that it was time for a change and wanted to mark the time. I spent a lot of time away from home and for a long, long time, for years on end. And it took time away from my kids and my wife and my family and my friends. And one of the choices I made, like Bras, is to kind of dial that back and try and have a life outside of it, because that's way more important. And a lot of that meant walking away from, in a lot of ways, the dream job I'd wanted since I was little. And the book was more selfishly for me and my kids, and to know that it kind of, again, to kind of close the door on a chunk of work that I had done. And people responded to it in a way that I never would have expected. And people were really very kind about it and reached out to me to tell me that it meant something to them and that what I had done meant something to them. And it's not often that you get that when you make anything in this world. And that was one of the most, and Mental will understand this because we have big sappy conversations about things like this. That was one of the most heartwarming and touching and genuinely just deeply impactful moments of my life, was realizing that I had done something that resonated with a group of people. And that, as sappy as it sounds, I'm really grateful for it. To say nothing of the podcast and my deeply patient wife and my kids who, put up with me. Well, let's just end the sentence there. They put up with me. So yeah, but
Can I say something about Sam's book?
Absolutely.
That's good, because I was going to do it anyways, whether you said yes or no anyways. It was silly
no,
of even asking
no.
that. But to me, I mean, I had read most of what's in Sam's book through the years. But there was some new stuff and probably a couple pieces that I'd missed through the years. And to me, what's great, there it is, Smithology. There it is.
Miss Vicky doing her best Vanna White, showing the book off.
Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
To me, the best, like it's not what you write about, it's how you write about it.
Thanks.
Well, I mean,
Thanks.
there is some of it that is about what you write about. Some of it is, one of my favorite pieces is you and your daughter in the 2CV going for ice cream.
Sure.
That's like magic stuff. But then you're writing about driving Fernando Alonso's Formula One McLaren. But it's how you tell those stories. And as I always say, Sam, words, what he does with words.
I know.
Thanks.
It's
Thanks,
wow.
Ross. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So Mental, there you go. That's we're both a bunch of saps. We thanked
Ah,
people.
ah.
I Mental, I miss you. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for the question.
Well, as we both know, and Ross, it's only a matter of time before you know, Mental can't stop at one. So, codename Mental.
Codename Mental.
You need to meet him at some point, Ross. He is I just want to be there when it happens. That's the only thing I ask. Just to see the look on your face with this wonderful human.
It is.
There will be many long conversations that you will listen to.
You know how Ross is a question
I love you,
guy,
Mental.
and he always thinks like with questions, responds with questions. One question that will not come to his mind is, why did they name you Mental? That won't come to your
No.
mind. That will not come to
No.
your mind. No.
No.
So
But-
codename Mental asks, "Oh, why is your show so much cooler than our podcast?" And has a shameless request / invite for you guys to come on at any point. Everyone Racers podcast, by the way.
Well, B, we would love to. Thank you.
Yep.
And A, why are we cooler? I mean, I think it's largely all the gasoline I huff. I mean, I just have a pot of it on my desk and I just huff it. And everything that comes out of my mouth is both deeply unplanned and large gibberish. Ross can attest to this. None of it makes any sense.
Yeah,
That's
and
people mistake that for cool. It's not.
the other thing about being cooler is what I do before every recording is I lie in a refrigerator in a freezer for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I
Dad
know
jokes.
that's
We have a
really
lot of
corny
dad
answer,
jokes.
but,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad jokes are the opposite of cool. It's true.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah.
That's the problem, Mental. If you think it's cool, I'm sorry to say that you're not cool because we're
Yeah,
how it works.
Yeah.
We're very lame.
He does have cool hair, though. Does have cool hair. Well, codename Mental has cool hair. We'll go with that. It's fine.
Okay.
Codename
I
Mental.
should probably go eat dinner. I'm
Yes,
so sorry.
Probably should. So the next time you race with Mental, hopefully it's not at the Thunderhill 25 where there's one track and it's one car width wide and the rest of it is a mud field. I believe that may be the last one that I was aware of, but we will eventually see you guys out there. And thank you for coming on.
So
The mud, the
Thank you.
25 hours of mud.
It was crazy.
I think
We
that
won.
weekend is the weekend. Yeah, Ross won, and we went through 3 radiators in 6 hours because people kept shoving the car off. I think Mental went through 2 of them. I'm not sure.
Codename Mental went through 2 of them.
Codename Mental.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
the artist formerly known as Not Mental. So,
That's right. And we need a figurine for him now, so that'll be fun. So that'll be great.
Bobblehead.
Well, I would thank you for coming on the podcast, but I thank you even more for you guys doing your podcast because it was the podcast I wanted that I didn't even know about. And I was just sitting there going every week. I'm like, ooh, what's this one going to be? So thank you guys.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Thank you for having us. It's been a pleasure.
you.
Thanks for
Always fun. Ross, you're 50 away from another from another email barrage of Ross. If you're still dumb enough to keep coming on, I'm still dumb enough to keep adding you. And Sam, you can come on anytime. It's fine.
Oh, sure. I'm a glutton for punishment. Yeah, I love it.
next time you ask, I'll just say, yeah, it depends.
It depends. Yeah, you got any decent questions for me this time? Probably not. But thank you guys. Thank you again. Great having you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Have
fun.
a good night. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Sorry we went a little bit longer than I planned on, but it just kept going.
Oh, it was fun. It was fun, guys. Thank you. Bill, Vicky,
I
thanks so much.
do have a question. Question. Vicky, do you have paint on your hands?
Yes,
I
she
do.
does.
Oh,
Very much so. I was painting
cool.
my
How come?
daughter's- I'm installing a closet system in my daughter's room.
Ah,
I
okay.
was
Right
prepping.
I saw at one point, I was like,
Got really dry skin.
Yeah.
Really dry.
Yeah.
You guys have anything you want me to use as pictures to post with the podcast? Could be you guys with cars, could be the podcast logo, whatever. Just let me know.
It's what you. I mean, we can do all that. I think it's
Okay.
Do you want us to send anything, or me
If you
to send
can.
anything, or?
If you can, that'd be
I've
great.
also got incriminating photos of Ross. I can send that.
Oh,
to
we
you.
definitely want those. We definitely want those.
Absolutely.
What's a good email, Bill? Or Vicky?
Garage Heroes in Training at gmail.com.
Whole thing, garage heroes in training at gmail.com, correct?
Yeah. And since you're a writer, I don't have to say heroes has 2 E's because that seems to screw up like 50% of the population. I'm like, did you go to school? Plural, not possessive? Anything striking memory deep way back?
it has two E's at the end of it. So it's
No.
E's.
No, that's the
Z
Canadian
is silent.
Canadian version of heroes.
Oh, that would have your U in it then.
No. Well, I feel bad because I have a feeling Sam's going to make a trip to Canada now to go try this new candy because he needs to know.
I gotta
I
next time
mean,
if I should have brought some home yesterday. Yeah.
it was so much easier when I lived in Detroit because it could be a
Just
Saturday
flip
night
over.
at like 1 a.m. and we just
Yep.
flip over and be like, you want to buy some potato chips? Yeah. And then we go buy potato chips. It was also when I had no kids.
You could drive south and go to Canada.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Craziness. All right. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Okay. Thanks.
You too, guys. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Thank you.